On this RC Gadget Talk, we're going to talk about adding a sound system to your electric model. We're going to take a look at the components that make up the model, some things that you should think about when installing it, and we'll give it a listen when we've got it all hooked up. Let's get started. Small digital circuitry has resulted in a lot of really cool products, and a lot of them have found their way into model aviation. One of the newer aspects of this digital circuitry is sound systems for electric airplanes. Now, one of the interesting things about electric airplanes is, of course, that they're quiet, which allows you to fly them in places that you might not be able to fly a gas or glow-powered model. But at the same time, it doesn't have quite the sense when you're flying that warbird and listening to it just kind of purr by. These electronic sound systems, like I have here, are one of the ways that you can add a little extra realism to your model. Now, the sound systems come from a variety of vendors, but they generally have the same parts. And so in this case, this sound system came from Hobby King. It's a relatively inexpensive sound system. And so it comes with a wire that allows you to tap into the main electrical circuit in the model. And it has this little tap cord coming out of the connector, which then connects to the sound module, which is this part right here. And it provides then power to the sound module. This wire plugs into the sound module, and it is the signal input. That's what senses where the throttle is. So it tells the sound module what kind of sound to be making, whether it's a high RPM sound or a low RPM sound. Because it needs to read that from the receiver, it provided me with a Y cord. And the Y cord then allows me to plug the sound signal wire into one branch of the Y, and then this branch of the Y would be the wire going to the electronic speed control, telling the speed control how fast to turn the motor. So these two are basically reading the same signal for different purposes. And then last but not least, there's the speaker, and the speaker provides the sound. This one is a kind of big and kind of heavy. We'll talk more about that later, but it provides the sound. Now, the sound module itself, in this case, an inexpensive sound system, there's only one sound in it, and it happens to be the motor sound that I'm going to need for the airplane I plan to put this in. However, some of the more expensive systems might be a little bit smaller when it comes to this sound module, and therefore lighter, and then they're programmable. They may have 3, 4, 5 different engine sounds. So if you're going to put it in a Cub, you've got that Lycoming kind of inline motor sound, or if you're going to put it in a Warbird, you've got that big double radial sound coming from the speaker. And then in some cases you can actually download different motor sounds and then use your computer to connect to the sound module and actually add or replace the sound files in the computer here that's in the sound module to give you the exact sound that you want. That's not the case with this inexpensive one, but you have a lot of choices in sound systems. Some of the newer ones that I've seen advertised have much smaller speakers, and in some cases they suggest just putting the speaker against the side of the wall of the fuselage, even a foam model, and it says that it'll get the sound through the foam out into the air so you can enjoy a warbird sounding airplane as you fly by. Let's take a minute and see how all this gets connected. Now, I know this looks like a bit of a rat's nest, but really it's pretty simple. You've got the main power train that comes through your airplane, coming from the battery down the main wires to the ESC, then to the motor. So what we've done here is we've added the sound card tap, or the sound system tap, into the circuit, which allows this wire here to power the sound module itself. And then I'm also using a universal BEC. You can watch my video on universal BECs to learn more about that. And I'm using then a second tap to power that universal BEC. Since I'm going to be using a sound system, the model might have retracts and lots of flaps. I want to be using the UBEC here to power it, to take the load off of the smaller BEC here in the ESC. The sound system then came with the Y cord, so I've got the Y cord plugged into the throttle channel because that's going to be sensing the signal to give it the speed that you want the motor sound to be. Plus, I've plugged the other end of the ESC line into this, and then because I have a UBEC, I've got the power pulled out of the the ESC. Now when I put this together, I'm going to tape this up so it doesn't short out, but I just wanted to show you that in this particular setup that the power is not coming from the ESC, it's coming from the UBAC. And then just plug the battery in. So I've got my transmitter on. So let's plug the battery in. We'll listen to the cell counts as the ESC powers up, and then we'll see what the sound system sounds like. Okay, so we've got the 3 counts and the go code from the ESC, so that's ready to go. I'm going to hold the motor because I'm going to have to, of course, advance the throttle to get the sound system to work, and I don't want to damage anything. I've got a little piece of tape on it so you can see that the motor is in fact rotating. I've got the lights on my satellite receiver and my primary receiver showing they're bound to the transmitter, and I've got the little blue light on the the UBAC here, the Universal BEC, that is powering the whole system off of the jack that comes, or the tap that comes off this little adapter. So let's see what this thing sounds like. Well, that's pretty cool. It sounded pretty good for an inexpensive system, and so I think it's going to be fun to fly around with. Now, before we go, I want to show you how I'm going to mount the speaker, and I need to kind of clean off the table here and bring the wing in to show you what's going to be happening there. For a couple of pointers on mounting the speaker, since it is kind of heavy and we don't want to affect the balance of the airplane too much. So I'll be back in just a second. This is the wing of the model that I plan to put the speaker system in. You can see that the wires coming from the ailerons and the lights and the wings come through a hole molded in the foam in the center section of this particular model. I want to put the speaker, because it's heavy, pretty much right on top of the center of gravity. So I've got it along the center line of the model, and then I measured the center of gravity that the model manual requires and made an X. And then I used some sandpaper, my hobby knife, and a little Dremel tool to kind of eat out the foam in the middle of this area so that I'll be able to mount the speaker in the foam. I plan to put the speaker down and then just kind of put a little bead of polyurethane glue or Gorilla Glue around the edge to hold it in place. You can also see that I use my drill press to put some holes through the foam, through the bottom of the wing, so that the sound has a way to get out. Hopefully those holes are going to be enough for the sound to get out into the surrounding air, and so the airplane will sound good as it flies by. So the speaker itself, as you can see, then will just simply drop into that hole. All the wires will still fit out, and then they will be coming up like this into the fuselage when I put it all together. I had to carve out a little bit of foam in the center of the fuselage for this magnet that is on the speaker to fit, but it all fits very nicely. And so that's all it's going to take to put the speaker in the wing. The important thing to remember, however, is that you want the speaker as close as you can get it to the center of gravity. There may be a reason for you to put the speaker behind or in front of the center of gravity. For example, if you already have weight in the nose, you may use the speaker to offset that weight and move it forward, therefore being able to pull the lead out of the nose. Nobody likes to carry unnecessary weight in the airplane. Same thing for the tail. If you've had to add weight to the tail of the airplane, you could move the speaker aft of the center of gravity and remove some of that weight that you had to add to the tail of your airplane. But generally speaking, you want to put the speaker close to the center of gravity so that the balance isn't seriously impacted and that you're not having to add more weight in addition to that of the speaker just to get the airplane to balance.